Hey students, this is lesson 1-3B continued. So this is the second part. In this part, we're going to learn more specifically how to write those slope-intercept equations given 1 point and the slope or 2 points. Let's just kind of get into this by reviewing equations a little bit, looking at this table. It says, what is an equational line described by this table? And at this point, you should know that the number in front of the x is the increase in y, or the change in y, when x goes up by 1. So we can see that that's 2, and this is 1. So we're going to have 2x. And then the number on the end is the number we start at, which is when x is 0, what is y? That's 1. Well, we call that the slope, and we call that the y-intercept when it's on a graph. So we can write an equation just by if we can find the slope and if we can find the y-intercept. And you'll notice if we were to graph these points, we would have -2, -3 is down here. Oops, it's down 1 too low. And then we go -1, -1, which is right here. Then we go to 0, 1, which is right here, and so on. But you should notice that between these points that I'm graphing, we're going up to over 1, which is the slope. And that I pass through the point 0, 1, and we call that the y-intercept. Okay? So, we're going to learn how to write graphs by finding those two things and plugging them into the equation. So the equation we're going to work with is this form, where m is the slope and b is the y-intercept. All right, so let's get into that. First thing says how do you write the equation for a line given the slope at 1 point on the line? Okay, so let's say that I give you this slope. I just say the slope is 3. And 1 point on the line is, so it goes through this point, 8, 6. Okay, so that's the information you're given, and you want to write the equation. Well, one way you could do this is you could make an XY table. You could put the point 8, 6 right here, and 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. So that you get to the y-intercept. And if you know the slope is 3, you know that if you go up by 1 on x, y value will go up by 3. So if you really wanted to, you could count back 3 until you get to 0. So you'd have to go all the way back to this point. But I'm going to suggest a little bit easier way to do that. Since we know we're going to write our equation this way, and we know that m is 3 because 3 is the slope. And we know that this equation represents all of these points with this relationship. So in other words, if I take 3 times x plus the y-intercept, it'll equal y. So if I take 3 times, if this point is on the line, if I take 3 times 8 plus some number, it has to equal 6. The y value. Notice I got the y value right there, and the x value right there, and the slope I got because we were told the slope is 3, and that goes in front of the x value. So 6 has to equal 3 times 8, which is 24, plus something. All right, and we can get that just by working backwards. Subtract 24 from 6, and we get -18. And so that's equal to b, which is my y-intercept. Now I know my slope is 3. My y-intercept is -18. I'm going to write -18. And I have an equation for this situation. And just to show you that it works, let's say I take this value. So I know this point 7, 3 has to be on there. So if x is 7, then y should equal 3. And 3 times 7 is 21. So we're hoping this equals 3. And 21 minus 18 equals 3. That checks out. that's how you write an equation. Let's try one more here, just so we get the hang of it. It says, what is the equation of a line that has slope 4 and passes through 0.15? So let's just start by writing what we know. We know the slope is 4, so write 4 times x. Then you have just a little bit more to write. You need to figure out what the y-intercept is, okay? And remember that this rule, when you put in 1 for x and 5 for y, it has to be true. So if I put 5 right here for y and put 1 right here for x and add this, it has to be true. Well, 4 times 1 is 4. I'll rewrite it up here. So 5 equals 4 plus something. And so I can just subtract 5 from 4. You could probably figure it out that that has to be 1, right? Well, that thing added on is the y-intercept. So the y-intercept is 1. So that means my equation is y equals 4x plus 1. All right? You can try a couple of these if you like. But we're going to move on, and we're going to do a problem where we have 2 points, and we want to write the equation. So in this problem, we know that 1, 3 is a point, and 3, 11 is a point. And we want to write an equation for this. Well, if we're given 2 points, then we can find the slope using slope formula. So I'm going to find the slope. I'm going to do 11 minus 3 over 3 minus 1. And that gives me 8 over 2, which is 4. So the value of m is 4 in this equation. All right? Now it says find the value of b without drawing a graph. And we're going to do it just like we did on the last one. Remember that when you have an equation, it has to work. So, and we know the slope is 4 plus something. And we know that the point 1, 3 satisfies this equation. So if x is 1, and y has to be 3. So whatever I add there has to make that true. So 3 equals 4 plus 12. And you could subtract 4 from 3 to figure that out, which is -1, or maybe you could just do that if you had. But so my b part is -1, so the equation of the line is just 4x plus -1, or 4x minus 1. Now we might want to check that to make sure that this also is satisfied by that equation. So if I put 3 where the x is, so 4 times 3, subtract 1, that should equal my y value, which is 11. And you can see that that's true. So just to summarize this, I'll just make up a couple points here and we'll find the equation. Let's say we have one point at 2, 5, and another point at, say, 3, 11. Okay, so first thing we're going to do is find the slope. So we're going to do 11 minus 5 over 3 minus 2, which is 6 over 1, which is 6. Then we are going to plug in one of the points. It doesn't matter which one you do, but let's take the 2, 5. We're going to use 2 for the x and 5 for the y. And we're going to use 6 for the m. And then we're going to figure out what b would have to be to make all that true. So here's my slope-intercept form of a line. I'm going to take my 5 for the y. My slope is 6. My x value is 2. And I have to figure out what I have to add to that to make it true. 6 times 2 is 12. And 12 plus something has to equal 5. And 5 minus 12 is -7, so that something is -7. So my b is -7. So my equation is 6x plus -7, or 6x minus 7. Now the last thing you're going to want to do is just make sure that the other point also makes that true. So you want to make sure that 11 is equal to 6 times 3 minus 7. 6 times 3 is 18, minus 7 is 11. So that works. that'll be it. We'll talk about this more in class next time.